ThinkTech Hawaii. Civil engagement lives here.
Hi, welcome to Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. We have a great show for you today. It's all about you and how do you feel better about yourself. And you know, good health is just a piece of it all. It's how you eat, it's how you exercise, it's everything to do with your daily life. So I have to tell you about my guest before I even introduce you to him. This young man is almost like a son to me. I've known him for many, many years, and he is a influencer of my life. He shows me how to train, he shows me how to eat better, he shows me how to exercise better, and very frankly, at my age, which is well over 70, I feel terrific, and I owe a lot of this to this young man. So let me introduce you to Chris Kidawski. Hi, Chris.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
You've been on my show before, actually. You've been on twice, right?
I have. This is the third time.
I know. You've been on from Miami, or was it Miami or Fort
Yeah,
Lauderdale?
it was Miami.
From Miami, where you reside now.
Right.
And you were on with Raina Rowland of East Oahu Physical Therapy, right?
Correct. Yep.
And now you're here, thank you, for the next 3 weeks, helping me and many other people in trying to improve their, not just their body, but their wellness, right? Trying to improve their health.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we call the show The Secret to Better Health for a very specific reason, and that is because health encompasses a lot more than just exercise, than just nutrition, than just emotions and all those kinds of things that work.
Absolutely.
So when I think of you and I think of what you've done for me, I feel very, very fortunate, and I thank you for doing what you have.
You're very welcome.
So I'm going to be your guinea pig today, right?
Yes.
And we're going to talk about some of my problems, which will relate to a lot of our audience's problems as well.
Absolutely. At least 9 out of 10. At least 9 out of 10 people.
Okay, good. So when you guys look at me, don't think that I'm all, you know, aches and pains. I'm not. I actually feel terrific, except for the workout you gave me last night where I couldn't move. But other than that, I feel very, very good. So it's been wonderful to have you here this last week, and you're going to be here for 2 more weeks, which is great. So your company is called Influential Health Solutions. I love that name. Why? Because in the business world, that is very specific to your mission statement, correct? Tell us a little bit about it and you.
Absolutely. So Influential Health Solutions came about because I started to realize that there was a lot more, like you had previously said, to fitness or to health than just eating right and just going to the gym. So one of the biggest components that I started to find out is that everything starts from the brain first, it moves to the body, and then there's this last little thing that we're trying to figure out too, is the spirit, okay? So when we're looking at the human body, the body's always gonna follow the brain, all right? But then there's this other aspect, there's something that we're always still trying to look for, and when I started to meditate, I started to realize, like, this is actually feeding my spirit. It's clearing my brain, and it's helping me to better take care of my body. So when I created Influential Health Solutions, one of the biggest things that I started to talk to people about was meditation first, and then it's clear your brain out second, or at least help your emotions be more calm throughout the day. Now we can make better decisions in our business. We can make better decisions when we go to the gym. We can make better decisions when we're going to eat. Okay, so I started that, and it started to work very, very well for me. So
that's terrific, Chris. And I find
Thank
that
you.
I find that your program is not related, and originally it was strictly related to exercise, because you trained Aaron, you trained my son playing football. I mean, it was amazing what you were able to do with a guy who's 6'5" and 275 pounds, and he's like a ballerina, you know, when you're finished with him.
Right.
Aaron, I know you're not like that today, but still, when you were training with him, it was really, really amazing. So it's important for the audience to know that this is not a one-trick pony here. It's not just about exercise or about food or anything like that.
Right. I started off at the University of Buffalo as a student assistant strength and conditioning coach, and then I actually got a graduate assistantship here with Tommy Heffernan at the University of Hawaii. I ended up getting my master's degree in kinesiology. I've trained several very influential football players that came out of the University of Hawaii. Travis LeBoy, Chad Owens, Devon Bess, Ryan Grice Mullen. Those guys, I'm still in touch with most of them to this day. All right, and there was a Big Island boy that I helped become a Navy SEAL as well. And then when I got over to Florida, I started to train a lot of MMA athletes. Robbie Lawler, he was the lightweight champion in the UFC. Mike Chandler also is a champion with Bellator in his weight class. And then I'm also working with a young up-and-comer right now called Logan Storley, who I believe he's 8-0 right now in Bellator.
Wow.
So I've trained quite a diverse set of people, as well as modern-day housewives, gentlemen like you who still think they're 15 years old. And
well, I think I'm 20.
20?
Yeah,
20. And
I'm
then
getting up there after last night, maybe 20, yeah.
A whole host of high school and collegiate athletes too. And I owned my own gym for a while. I owned my own gym for about 3 years.
It was a CrossFit gym?
It was a CrossFit gym, but I burned out. I wore too many hats. I was the accountant. I was the coach for every single class. I was the let me heal you if you have an injury guy. So I was working about 14, 15 hours a day, and that could only sustain it.
We talked about that, didn't we? As part, just for everybody to know, I've been helping Chris with his business and trying to make him understand that you cannot do all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You have to delegate, and you have to run your business like a house, right? It's got to have 4 posts to balance the house. It's you have to have help, you have to have assistance, and luckily you have a woman in your life who I think is even smarter than you are. And
she is, yeah.
Andrea, she's absolutely terrific. So Andrea, if you're watching the show, you should take much more credit than this guy does, because really you two are a wonderful team together.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Everybody wants to know what the secret is. Is there a secret, Chris?
The secret is balance, but it's not the balance that we're used to. If we're looking at balance, we want to say, okay, I'm going to put 25% of my energy into my business. I'm going to put 25% of my energy into my family. I'm going to put 25% of my energy into my body, and then I'm going to put 25% of my energy into my spirit. So we kind of split ourselves in too many ways, where the key is actually presence. If I'm in my business, I want to be focused in my business 100%. If I'm exercising in the gym, I want to be focused on exercising 100%. I want to be on the cell phone. I want to be like, hey, Jim, John, come on over. Let's talk. Let's have a powwow for 5 minutes in between sets. If I'm going to eat, I don't want to be on my cell phone. I don't want to be watching TV. I don't want to be reading a book. I just want to be focused on my nutrition.
I get it. I get it.
You see what I'm talking about?
And that's so true, because too many of us try to multitask.
Multitask
and do
does not
everything
work
at the same time. I have some friends actually who multitask in they could be in the car where their knee is on the steering wheel, their fingers are on their phone, texting, and their voice is actually talking to somebody on the phone.
That's a disaster waiting to happen.
No kidding. But that's multitasking to an extreme. But you're right. The idea of focusing on one thing at a time is something that I preach in business as well. It's not just in life. It's
absolutely.
It's actually the way to be successful in business is focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
So when it comes to our bodies, Chris, we'll talk about nutrition afterwards, but everybody is interested in how do you get a body that is not resistant to injury, that's probably impossible, but is working well, especially older people like me, whose muscles and tissues are not as easy to work with, obviously. Is there a secret to that? Is there a way to make sure that we can work out and do the things we want to do without bending over and screaming in pain all of a sudden?
Right. So whenever people ask me about secrets, they want to hear something tangible, okay? But it's really the intangible things that make the tangible possible. So you asked me about, okay, well, what's one secret? And I said, well, it's balance.
Right.
How do you depict balance? And you asked me, what's another secret if I want to keep my body really healthy? I'm going to tell you it's consistency. So if I teach a dog to sit once a week, every time I tell a dog to sit, it's going to look at me like I'm crazy. Okay, but if I teach a dog to sit every single day, by the 7th or 8th or 9th day,
he's sitting.
The dog is going to be, okay, I remember this. I'm going to get a treat as soon as, when he says that word, if I do this, I'm going to get a treat.
Right.
So your body's the same way, and a lot of times people, like I said earlier, start off doing way too many things at the beginning. Okay, I want to go and exercise like a maniac. I'm going to go on an all salad diet. I'm going to do nothing but drink juice every single day and eat and run. And at the end of a month, they're burned out.
Right.
So to me, like I said earlier, start putting 100% into one thing at the beginning. And for me, that's nutrition. It has to be nutrition. Your cells, your entire body is going to replicate according to what you put in your mouth. Mm-hmm. Health starts in the mouth, disease starts in the colon. Okay, so everybody out there that's listening right now, the first place you want to start is going to be nutrition. The second place you want to start is going to be mobility. For me, exercise is third. And there's been a meta study done showing that people who exercise vigorously for 6 weeks lose about 3.5 pounds. Mm-hmm. People that go on a very, very good diet for their body type will lose approximately 15 to 20 pounds in that time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people start off doing something that is much, much too hard. Their body isn't ready for it yet. Mm-hmm. But everybody can make good choices with their food and spoon it to their mouth. You're going to lose a lot of weight much, much faster. Now we're better able to exercise.
You're so right. That happened to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've obviously lost some weight in the last few weeks, and thanks to you. And I find that the exercise regime you gave me is much better, much
Absolutely.
easier for me.
Yeah.
Now, we both watched a video from Chopra, right?
Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, from
right.
Deepak Chopra. I think it was put out by Ruby out of Canada. That's a company that has this online culinary school.
Yeah.
And we were both very impressed with it. Here, he had lost 30 pounds, gone on a diet, and you could see his exercise has improved. He says he's able to exercise better. And that in itself shows you that's the beginning of it all, right?
It is.
What you said, what you put in your mouth is maybe that first thing you have to do before you decide you want to change your lifestyle and do something different with your life.
Correct.
Absolutely correct. And I believe in that.
Great.
Wonderful. Now, let's go on to pain. We don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, and you're not here for my next show because I'll be in Chicago. But we are going to continue this series because I think it's so important that we do.
Great.
Let's talk about pain management.
Okay.
I'm not going to say secret. What's the key to it?
Once again, well, there's a couple keys to pain management. Number one is truly understanding how the body works. Okay, and when we look at the body, say for instance, if I injure my bicep, all right, people are going to look at, if I go to the doctor's going to look at my bicep.
Hold that thought. Let's bring up a picture.
Okay.
Right, we're going to bring up a picture of me after a tennis tournament in Florida where I had torn my hamstring.
Yes.
Right? So the setting is I tore my hamstring. I call Chris. Chris says, oh, no big deal. I can fix it. Mm-hmm. My brother, who's a doctor, Mark, if you're watching this show, I'm sorry to tell you, but Chris knew a lot more about this than you do. Mark said I would be out for 6 to 8 weeks right before, and you said you could probably be playing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at the next picture. And you could see how black and blue, it's extending all the way down my leg.
Pretty bad.
Right, pretty bad. And the third picture. Okay, now tell us what you did. Hold this picture there while you're talking. Go ahead.
So your hamstring ended up letting go. It ended up spraining and straining really, really bad because the nerves that were telling it what to do were being occluded. They were being choked off. They were being strained. So oftentimes, when we have an injury in the body, it is a symptom. It's not a problem, all right? So your problem was tight muscles in your hip that were not sending the right message to your hamstring. And you told me you reached for the ball, and you really, really had to work hard to get it. So up until that point, the message could get to the hamstring, and then you reached the threshold. And
so
your body
what are you doing there? What are you doing in the picture? Your
body said, this is too much. So in the picture, what I'm doing is I am actually releasing that tight muscle in your hip. And when I released that, guy, remember you stood up and you were like, it feels like 60% better. This is incredible. I don't understand. Right. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about the body is we need to focus more on where the problem is, not the symptom. Injuries, any type of body aches, these are all symptoms. We need to find out what the problem is. And in nearly 9 out of 10 cases, the problem is alignment.
So in a case like this, Chris, where you are rubbing another part, I mean, you're not rubbing what's inflamed and,
Right.
you know, the edema is so bad there, obviously. When you did that, I noticed that you were able to, the next day you came over, you were actually able to rub where I had the where I had the edema, where all the swelling was.
To start to get that hematoma to drain a little bit for you.
Absolutely amazing.
And no doctor in their right mind would ever touch something like that. And your brother even called me. He got on the phone and he was like, "Weren't you worried?" And I say, "No, because I deal with this all the time, and the result is the same. The person gets exponentially better."
Wow.
Exponentially better.
Well, Chris, we got to take a short break, and then we're going to come back, and I will be your guinea pig again, and you can talk to people about balance. You
All right.
talked about that. And,
Absolutely.
And it's such an obvious picture when it comes to me and what or how you think I should fix myself a little bit.
Yes.
So amazing. Half our show is gone, and we haven't even touched on a lot of the things we wanted to. We'll be back in a minute. I'm Seymour Kazimirski on Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii.
Hey, aloha, Stan Energy Man here on ThinkTech Hawaii, where community matters. This is the place to come to think about all things energy. We talk about energy for the grid, energy for vehicles, energy in transportation, energy in maritime, energy in aviation. We have all kinds of things on our show, but we always focus on hydrogen here in Hawaii because it's my favorite thing. That's what I like to do. But we talk about things that make a difference here in Hawaii, things that should be a big changer for Hawaii. And we hope that you'll join us every Friday at noon on Stan the Energy Man and take a look with us at new technologies and new thoughts on how we can get clean and green in Hawaii. Aloha.
Good afternoon. My name is Howard Wigg. I am the proud host of Code Green, a program on ThinkTech Hawaii. We show at 3 o'clock in the afternoon every other Monday. My guests are specialists, both from here and the mainland, on energy efficiency, which means you do more for less electricity and you're generally safer and more comfortable while you're keeping dollars in your pocket.
Hi, welcome back to Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm here with Chris Kidawski, my trainer, my physical mentor, the guy who is going to make sure that I can live until 90 and be actually, you're preparing me for water skiing for this summer, right?
Yeah, you are laying it on thick today.
Right, I'm on a competition this summer, and I want to win that one this year if I can, which will be great. So, Chris, we saw what happened when you have a pain, or in my case, it was a horrible jam of my strain on my hamstring. Yeah. Now let's talk about the nutrition part. I think it's important for people to understand what you meant when you said what you put in your mouth. Obviously, there are so many diets around, and some guy thinks you should all be plant-based. Another guy says you got to have more protein in your body. Another guy. So there's no perfect solution to this, is there?
There is.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Yeah, I believe there is a perfect solution, and when we look at it, you just should never have to be convinced of anything when it comes to food. So if you see a lot of these products that are out on the market today, they use what we call hyper marketing. They talk to you about how good it is for your gut, how shiny it's going to make your skin, how much energy it's going to give you, and then you eat it and you're like, all I want to do is just eat more, okay? And when we're looking at food, really, nobody should ever have to convince you of what it's going to do to your health. There should absolutely be no marketing behind it. It should be 100%.
But how do you know what food to eat?
That's what I'm getting to. You should be able to look at it and say, okay, this came from nature. So there's a book that I'm working on. It's called No Longer Nature Made. And I talk about how food is now being made in factories. It's not being made in farms. All right? So if we look at a steak, we want to eat a steak that comes from a cow that ate grass. Why? Because that's all cows eat is grass. Okay, so if your cow has been fed grains, it's not going to have the proper nutrients in the steak to feed your body.
What about all of the antibacterial stuff that they put into it?
I mean, we could do 12 shows on that stuff if you wanted to, okay? The other thing that I tell people is you want to eat food that just has one ingredient. So how many ingredients does a steak have? It's just meat, it's just protein, just fat. How many ingredients does water have? Okay, and people want to look at that and say, oh, but that's really boring. Well, there are definitely ways that you can spice it up, and that's what I do for a lot of my weight loss clients. But we look at, too, how many ingredients does asparagus have, right? And a lot of this stuff, it's innate. We can look at asparagus and say, I know that's healthy for me, but I just don't want to eat it because it doesn't taste as good as my bread that has a whole bunch of stuff on it.
So nutrition itself is basically eating, am I interpreting this correctly? Eating fresh food.
Eating fresh, whole food, as organic as possible. People want to say, oh, organic food or organic
Well, what
food
about
is just
organic
too
eggs
expensive.
versus regular eggs? Or
Well, there's a big difference. If you can do a Google search and they'll show you what a cage-free egg is compared to a pasture-raised egg. A pasture-raised egg has hens running all over the grass. Chickens are omnivores. They peck at anything and eat everything. If you look at cage-free, you're going to see about 12,000 chickens stuffed into one big farmhouse. Now, if human beings were living like that, we wouldn't be very happy. We wouldn't be making very good, healthy eggs.
Right.
They're pecking at little things that drop down that give them liquid nutrition.
Yeah, to
It's
fatten them
yeah,
up.
it fattens them up.
Yeah.
It keeps them alive. But that's cage-free, and everybody wants to say, "Oh, cage-free is great."
But what
for you."
about, I'm a real proponent of fish.
Right.
I happen to love fish and seafood fish, all that kind of stuff. And for me, I always look for non-farm fish.
Correct.
Is that the right thing to do?
Absolutely, 100%. You do not want to have any type of farm fish because they are fed soy pellets and then they're swimming around in their own waste, filtering it all day. Where if you were eating something wild, it's eating an indigenous diet and it's in, for the most part, fresh, clean waters.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about your 6 books.
Okay.
I'm so impressed because I remember you called me and sent me your first draft of your first book, and I said, this is fantastic. I said, this is exactly what you need to do. And now you have 6 books and you're
Correct.
working on a 7th book.
Yeah.
First of all, where do they find your books?
You can find all of my books on Amazon.
So Amazon under, is there a
Christopher J. Kidawski. You can just type in my name.
Chris Kidawski?
Yep.
And then they can find it under Amazon and purchase each individual book, or do they come as a set?
They're individual, but when I finish my pain series, that's going to be a set, and my cookbooks are also a set as well.
The one that you're sending to me that I'm
Is
going to read
the-
on the plane tonight?
The knee pain Bible. I'm currently in the
Okay.
middle of finishing that one.
All right, and that's amazing because I had both my knees replaced, and
Yes.
I feel absolutely amazing after it. So
Yes.
it's terrific. We want to talk a little bit about balance.
Okay.
All right, and we're going to bring up the first picture that you wanted to show. Let's see. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
So when we were looking at this picture right now, all balance comes straight from the head. Like I said, the body is going to follow your head. It's going to follow your mind. When we're looking at this picture, we can see that the head is tilted a little bit to the left. This is a problem with our atlas. Our atlas is our first cervical vertebrae.
And the atlas is what we're seeing down.
No, the atlas is a bone. It's our first
the bone.
cervical
Okay.
vertebrae
All right.
upon which your head sits. So if that guy gets off, what ends up happening is your central nervous system creates compensation on one side of the body to make sure that your head is still sitting straight. So what ends up happening is your body starts to function in dysfunction.
And is that what you see, all the red in
Yes.
in that
So
photograph?
all the muscles that are on the right-hand side of the picture, they are showing how everything is getting lifted up. Everything on the right-hand side is tightening. Okay, and everything on the everything on the right-hand side is tightening up and dropping
Right.
down.
And the other
what
side.
that does is it lifts everything up on the
So
left-hand side.
you're not in balance. Obviously,
You're not in balance. Rather than being straight, everything is like this.
Well, we're going to look at the next one because here's a perfect example. Go ahead.
So if we're looking at this lady from the back, we can see that the right-hand side of her back is obviously higher
Much higher.
than the left-hand side of her back. If we go to the next picture, I did a little test and I checked out her feet, and
My
we
God,
can
it's
see
like an inch off.
almost an inch.
Right.
Her right leg was shorter by almost an inch, and her left leg was longer.
And you did
Okay.
that to me too, didn't you?
Correct.
Right. I
Correct.
remember
We're
you actually
working on
sitting
it.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it.
What's
If
the
we
next
go,
photo?
If we go to the next photo,
Oh, wow.
this is a X-ray that she got depicting exactly what we saw in that first photo. So her hips tilted to the left, her rib cage tilted to the right, she had a right QL, a quadratus lumborum muscle, and it was just contorting her entire body.
And that gave her the pain in the back.
She had tremendous back pain, tremendous back pain.
Well, let's get back to a picture of you and me. And you could look at, and if the audience can see this, I don't know. But if you look at me sitting next to Chris, my right and left shoulder are not equal. They never have been.
No.
And I've complained to our producer here, can you make my shoulder straight? And he says, no, it's up to you. So Chris, what happened here? Can you tell me?
So same thing like we saw in the picture, and that's one of the reasons why I really liked it. When you're somehow, we have no idea how many years ago, you damaged your atlas, your first cervical vertebrae, so your body started to compensate, and the longer that you live with that, the tighter these tissues get. And then when we look at ourselves in the mirror, it's like, why is this side sitting higher? That's your new normal. And your body's doing this because the head needs to sit straight.
But it throws everything off.
Throws everything else
based on
off.
The
So
that you showed.
when you started getting all these issues on the right-hand side of your body, you were told me first your right hamstring explodes on you.
And then my ankle blew up.
Next was your right side back, and then was your right ankle.
Right.
And I said, wait a minute. I obviously live in Florida and you live over here, so I'm like, we need to address, this is an alignment issue. This is not just a one-time like something's happening. This is an alignment issue. We need to look at the body more as a whole. And when I got down here this time, I immediately, as soon as I looked at you, I was like, why didn't I pick up that left shoulder before?
Amazing.
So this is a major oversight, major oversight.
So the idea of straightening your body obviously needs help. You can't do this on your own. It's very difficult.
Not for the most part. You could get 80% there, but you would need a manual therapist like myself or somebody very skilled in alignment. There are a couple people out there in order to get you to 100.
Chris, you are not a PT, right?
No.
You're not a physical therapist. You are much more important than that in my mind.
Thank
because
you.
Physical therapists have learned everything from their books, right? They've
Correct.
learned how to do things from their books. You are, in my mind, and it's a term that you coined that I love, you're a structural therapist.
Correct.
Now, a structural therapist, if you ask for the definition, what do you see as a structural therapist?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit coy here, and I'm going to say, how do you describe the color blue to a blind person? It's very, very difficult because they have no basis to go off of. So because this is a pioneering aspect of my field, it's very, very challenging for me to give you a very good answer, all right? But when it comes down to it, structural therapy looks at the body as a whole, regardless if it's nutrition, regardless if it's pain management, regardless if it's, emotions, anxiety, things like that. We want to find out the root cause of the problem that is creating the symptoms. And for me, it starts with any type of structure. The foundation of a home, if it cracks, the home is goners, right? The foundation of a boat is the hull. If that cracks, you're going to sink.
You got it.
So for me, it comes down to structure and it comes down to balance. You need to be completely balanced for optimal health.
Wow. Well, Chris, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. And we haven't even scratched the surface on a lot of the things we have to do. So I'm going to try to arrange for another show when I get back from Vancouver this week. And perhaps while you're still here, you can come back on again.
Absolutely,
and
I would love to.
about it. Now, before we do that, I want the audience to understand how much work you have done.
Okay.
I want to do an arm wrestle with you.
All right.
Now you see that muscle and you see my muscle, my forearm, his forearm. I just want you to know that I can take this guy. I can actually take this guy. So here we are. I'm Seymour Kazimirski on Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll see you next week. Aloha!